Alright, and we are back for the final cards, which is, of course, the neutral cards, because that is always how I like to finish it off. So we got the Cult Neo Pyth. 2 cost, 3/2 battlecry. Your opponent's spells cost 1 more next turn. I mean, it's okay. Nothing really extreme or out of the ordinary, to be honest. Just kind of making your opponent play a little differently their next round, or their next turn, possibly. Possibly they might just do the same thing. I don't know. I think it just depends on the time you play it and what's going on and stuff like that. So, I mean, overall it's a good card. I will put it at a 6, because I think that is pretty fair for this card. So, type of decks, I don't know. I think this would probably be more of just like a filler card. If you need something, then you throw it in. Onyx Mage Scribe, 6 cost, 4/9 dragon with spellburst. Add 2 random spells from your class to your hand. I think this is a pretty strong card because depending on the class that you take, their class spells are very good, so you're most likely going to go with a very spell-heavy class, or like a class that has good spells, so generally you'll get something pretty darn good. It does put a bit of RNG into it, but it's not bad. I don't think it's that horrible of RNG. A 4/9 is a very interesting stat line I've seen for a 6 cost, though. So I think I'm going to put this one at probably... I'm going to go with a 6 as well. 6 out of 10. Type of decks, probably mage, more likely. Really, that's the class you'll probably go with. Well, actually, that's what I should do for neutral cards, is what classes you most likely will see this in, not type of decks. Well, maybe decks, too, if something comes to mind. So for type of decks or class, probably mage. Probably about it. Really just mage, most likely. Maybe some other ones, but most likely just mage. Transfer student. So there's a lot to this card. It's a 2 cost 2/2 that has different effects based on which game board you're in. I'm just gonna go over like the standard ones. So Horde is a standard board. You would get Battlecry, deal 2 damage. Stranglethorn, stealth and poisonous. Stormwind, you get Divine Shield. Pandora gives Battlecry, give a friendly minion +1/+2. Then we jump all the way down to the Rise of Shadows, which is Battlecry, add a lackey to your hand. Doom with Feet gives it Reborn. Doom with a Windmill, add an Doom Plague spell to your hand. Descent of Dragons type background, Battlecry, discover a dragon. Outland, you're dormant for 2 turns, deal 3 damage to a random enemy minion. Scholomance, at the current time we didn't know, and I didn't go back to look, which I probably should have, but that's my bad. But no, there's plenty of variety. If you want to look through all the specifications on the wild stuff, you could probably just pause the video and read that then. But no, honestly, it's weird because it has a great amount of variety, which is fantastic. But also it becomes really random then too, which is also a bad thing because you don't want too much randomness in your deck. But I think overall, even with all the different stuff, I think it's it's very balanced, honestly. So I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10. I think it's very good. No matter what board you're playing on, I think it seems very strong. So 7 out of 10 is, I think, very appropriate. Type of decks or classes that it would go in. Honestly, couldn't tell you. I think it could kind of go just around anything. Some kind of filler card that would probably do well, I think. Alright, Wretched Tudor. 4 cost 2, 5. Spell burst. Deal 2 damage to all other minions. This card's just kind of weird. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Because the spell burst is, like, it's helpful. But if you have other stuff on your board, then you can't play a spell. It kind of hurts. It's very situational. Because most likely what you're going to want to do with this is you're going to want to play this and play a spell on the exact same turn you play it. So then you don't have any other minions out there, which could get screwed over by the spell burst because you're like, oh yeah, I'll buff my minions. Oh, they just took a bunch of damage now too. So, not terribly good. I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10 for this one. What type of decks or class you'll see this in? Honestly, not sure. It's not great. You might not see it around too much. So, I don't know if there's really... Maybe a control deck it'll try to fit into. But probably, likely will not work. Pen Flinger. 1 cost 1/1, battle cry, deal 1 damage, spell burst, return this to your hand. I mean, it's a cool concept, but as a card, it's not that strong. Because 1 cost 1/1 with a battle cry of 1 is a thing already, but now you can return it to your hand, which is that, I mean, that's cool, it's helpful, but like, it's only 1 damage. That's all you're doing. That's really all you're doing. So, I'm going to give this well, there's actually better stuff than this, because with the Hunter, you got the Twin Shot, which is a spell, which means it can be improved by spell damage. This cannot. So, I wanted to make that clear. I will say this is a 3 out of 10. Type of decks or class you'll see this in. Most likely none, because it's just bad. Animated Broomstick. 1 cost, 1/1 rush. Battlecry, give your other minions rush. It can be useful with, if you got a lot of stuff out there to give rush to, but, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't think this one works that well either, because you're giving rush to your minions that are out there, but the rush only matters if you played them that turn, because otherwise they can attack whoever they want anyway. So really, it's not that useful. The weapon did it better because you don't have to spend any mana on it, and you can trigger it whenever you want, basically, unless they destroy your weapon. This is a guaranteed give your minions rush, but you still got to spend a little mana on it. But it's like, it's not amazing. I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10 on this one. Decks or classes you'll see this in, you probably won't see it around too much, to be honest. Crimson Hothead. 4 cost, 3/6 dragon with spell burst, gain +1 attack and taunt. I think it's quite useful. The spell burst is honestly pretty easy to do, so you get that 1 attack and taunt quite quickly. So it ends up being a 4 cost 4/6 with taunt, and it's a dragon, which the dragon tag generally helps a lot. So honestly, I do like this card. It seems honestly pretty decent. I am going to go with a 6 out of 10. Classes or decks you'll see this in. Decks, probably some kind of dragon deck. Maybe, probably warrior. Like a dragon warrior, possibly. Or a dragon priest, if that's even a thing anymore. Probably not. But maybe some kind of like dragon deck. Mage might have something. Question mark. Not sure. Disgimp, 0 cost, 1/1 demon. I mean, we need more 0 cost 1/1s, I guess. I don't know. I don't get the purpose of this one too much. There's a lot of 0 cost 1/1 stuff. We've just been going through different tribes now, and this time it was the demon's turn. I mean, it's kind of what we expect at this point. So, 5 out of 10. Type of decks, demon, a demon deck. Maybe zoo. I don't know. Zoo warlock, possibly. Not sure. It's just kind of a thing now. 4 cost, 5/1 elemental, the Divine Rager. He has Divine Shield. So take Magma Rager, pay 1 more, you get Divine Shield. That seems like a fair trade-off. Still not great, because Magma Rager was not great. This is okay, but still not good. I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10 on this one. Type of decks or class, you probably won't see it unless it's an elemental deck that really needed an elemental. And this is what they opened up. So a budget elemental deck, probably. Educated Elec. 3 cost, 3/4 beast. Whenever a spell is played, this minion remembers it. Death Rattle, shuffle the spells into your deck. I think this card is really cool. It's kind of like Lorewalker Cho in a way, but it only goes one direction. Because only the person that owns it gets it. But it also shuffles into your deck when you die. You don't just get it right away. Which is cool, because no matter who plays the spell, he remembers it. And when he dies, he will shuffle the stuff into your deck. I think it's very useful. Counter to it is really just killing it with minions without playing spells. Or silencing it. That's like your only options, really. But overall, I do very much like it. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Type of decks you'll see it in. Honestly, not sure what you would maybe see this in. Maybe a mage, where you're playing lots of spell damage, and you got spells that really benefit from that spell damage, and then he remembers them, and then you can play them again. Maybe some kind of combo there that we might look at. I don't know. Enchanted Cauldron. 3 cost, 1/6. Spell burst. Cast a random spell of the same cost. I'm not a fan of this card at all. Just kind of too random. And spell burst only happens once. At least he has attack. 3 out of 10. Decks and classes, you probably won't see him around. Or at least I hope not. He's not great. Fishy Flyer. Fishy Flyer. 4 cost, 4/3 Murloc with Rush. He has Death Rattle, add a 4/3 Ghost with Rush to your hand. It's weird because it doesn't really fit into a Murloc deck. Because the Ghost is not a Murloc. And, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it fits in it. Because the Ghost is not a Murloc, first off. And 4 cost, 4/3 is kind of expensive for a Murloc as well. Rush. Generally, there's just some Murlocs that are like, that don't really have Rush, really. There aren't too many of those. Some of them have Charge. Otherwise, they're just kind of smaller minions that then get buffed with a bunch of them. This one's just weird. This just doesn't seem to fit at all. I'm still going to give it like a 5 out of 10. Because it does have decent value. But it just... Type of decks and or class. Not sure what you would put this in. Because it doesn't seem to really fit Murloc. I mean, you can kind of make it fit Murloc, I guess, if you're doing like Like a budget Murloc would probably put this in. They're like, oh, we need more Murlocs. How about Fishy Flyer? Sure, we got it. That's probably about all you're going to see it. Which would either be Paladin or Shaman, probably then. Intrepid Innate. 1 cost, 1, 2 spell burst, gain plus 2 attack. Honestly, this card, I do actually like it. Because a 1 cost 3/2 is very good. And the spell burst really isn't that hard to get off if you have early spell stuff. So I very much like this card. Very simple, very easy, and simple to understand, gets the spell burst out there, and just overall the stats are fine on it then after that spell burst. So 6 out of 10 I'm going to give it. Type of deck you would see it in, probably like a mage, tempo, possibly. Bring tempo mage back? I don't know, but some kind of like spell deck. Any kind of spell deck would probably maybe put this in. Probably, maybe. Okay. A spell deck will probably put this in. Some of them will, some of them probably won't. It will work for some and probably not for others. Lake Tharesher. 5 cost, 4/6. Also damages the minions next to him, whomever this attacks. And it is a beast. I mean, it's fine. It's like a Cave Hydra or like Foe Reaper. Something like that. Just in the middle range for it now. Because Foe Reaper is a big one, a 6/9. Cave Hydra's a little smaller, a 2/4. This guy's in the middle, a 4/6. I think is pretty equally balanced. It does kind of stink that it's another beast though. Because you got a beast, then you have 2 beasts that do this and 1 mecha that does this. I don't think any dragons do this. That's what it should have been. A Murloc. A Murloc that does it. There we go. That could be a thing. The Murloc side claw. Yeah. Just like a sweeping motion. But honestly, it's pretty equally balanced, I think, for especially this. Because Foe Reaper, I think, because Foe Reaper has 2 more attack and costs 3 more. And then he's got 3 more health. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm going to do a 6 out of 10. Decks are classes. Maybe a hunter. Beast hunter, maybe. Or beast druid, possibly. I don't know, probably one of the classes. Basically, a class that's running, like, beasts. We'll maybe put this in there. Maybe. Mana Feeder Panthar. 2 cost, 2/3 beast. Battlecry. If you used your hero power this turn, you draw a card. Which is honestly really nice. Card draw is always nice. You really aren't losing too much value with the card draw. The 2 cost, 2/3 is fine-ish. But all you gotta do is use your hero power, which is generally well, your hero power is generally understated. But it's okay. Because you get a card draw. Anyway. I don't think it's horrible. I think it's okay. I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10. Dexter classes. Beast classes, probably. Hunter or Druid will probably play this. In Arena, it's not bad, I don't think. As far as I know. Card draw is very important. Or useful. Ogre Men. 5 cost, 3/7. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, you get a 2/2 skeleton with taunt. I think this is statted very well, because you care way more about that health than that attack, because you want to keep your stuff around, so your opponent casts spells, and you get more 2/2 skeletons with taunt. I think this card's pretty good. I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10. Because it's very difficult to deal with, and then you're going to get plenty of stuff out of it because they're probably using spells to try to deal with it. So 7 out of 10. Type decks, sadly, I can't really think of anything for this one. Even though it's a good card, it just doesn't really fit anywhere. I mean, I guess it could fit in the meta. For example, if the meta ends up being very spell heavy, and then this is a decent counter for it type thing. But that's just a thought. Plagued ProtoDrake. 8 cost 8/8 dragon. Death rattle summon a random 7 cost minion. This card is actually pretty good. Sucks if it gets silenced. Actually, 8 cost 8/8, even with nothing, isn't horrid. But this card I think is honestly pretty good. Because 8 cost 8/8 is already fine. And then you get a 7 cost minion when it dies, which is generally also pretty good. And you get that for free. So you get plenty of value out of this. I think just because of the sheer amount of value, it should be rated relatively high. So 7 out of 10. Decks and whatnot. Decks or class. Dragon deck would probably be good. It would probably be pretty decent in a control deck because of how much value it is. Because like your opponent is probably going to have to deal with a lot to try to get rid of all these stats that you're throwing out. So I think it's a very good card. And probably going to see... I think it will see some play in either mage or warrior, maybe priest, like a resurrection priest or something like that. I do honestly think it's pretty good. I do really like the card. Even though I only give it a 7 out of 10, I do really like the card. Robes of Protection. 3 cost 2/4. Your minions can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. I mean, this is a cool concept, but I think it's too small to really do anything. I think it needs to be a bit more expensive, and then like you don't really care too much about attack. Just like keep it at that 2 attack, make it cost more, and then give it more health. Like a 5 cost 2/7 or something like that would be good, I think. Just of how it is, it's only a 2/4. I mean, yeah, you can get it out early because it's only 3 now, but it is only a 2/4. Most minions can deal with 2/4s. And if you got a bunch of stuff out there, your opponent will not turn away from using a flame strike if they're playing mage, for example, because it takes out the robes of protection and hits everything still. You can't stop any type of AoE. Because Flame Strike destroys this. Earthquake, gone. Volcano will probably destroy it. Because generally everyone counts out. Okay, do I have 15 or less ones? Volcano's pretty darn good too, but it's just too RNG based that most people use it for when only there's 15 or less health on the board. So anyway, even though I am railing on it a lot, it's not bad. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Type of decks you'll see it in, control. You'll probably see it in control, especially if there's a lot of spells that end up being in the meta. Because then they can't really do as much to it, especially if it's like targeting spells, for example. Pair this up with that Ogre Mancer and you are... Actually, no, because Ogre Mancer... Because this won't really let you play spells. Ogre Mancer wants you to play spells. So, I mean, I guess they don't really work together, I guess you could say. Smug Senior. 6 cost 5/7 with Taunt. Death Rattle, add a 5/7 Ghost with Taunt to your hand. Honestly, I never understood this card. It's not great. 6 cost 5/7 and it's already not amazing. And then you get another 5/7 with taunt for these, and you play them for the same price, which is not really worth it. Like, you could just use a Boulder Fist Ogre, which is a better option. Same cost. You can take care of both for half. Or at least using hero powers if you're also mage, for example. You know, War Golem just destroys both of them. And War Golem is not great or not good anymore. War Golem can kill both of them for 7. While you spend 12 and get nothing done. Just not good. I'm not, 4 out of 10. Type of decks you'll see this in or class. I hope you don't see it in any. Unless they're probably playing a budget deck. Sneaky Delinquent. 2 cost, 3/1 stealth, death rattle, and a 3/1 ghost with stealth to your hand. I honestly do like this one. Because the stealth is very useful. You could basically play it. Just kind of have it sit there and wait for a good opportunity of something with 3 health. Kill it. Then you play the next one. Wait for a good opportunity of something with 3 health. And then kill it. Only problem, it only has 1 health. So, I mean, spells will probably easily deal with it. But hopefully, your opponent doesn't do that. Like a Fan of Knives or Arcane Blast. Explosion. Arcane Explosion. Not Blast. There's Blast Wave. Hopefully they don't play that either. I think it's not bad, though. I honestly do. I don't think it's horrible. I will give this a 6 out of 10. Type of decks you might see this in? Or classes? It's probably more of a filler one. But it's not a bad filler card. Like, if you need something like this, put it in there. Put this one in there. It's not bad. Sorcerer's Substitute. 6 cost, 6/6 battle cry. If you have spell damage, summon a copy of this. This is just an amazing card, honestly, in my opinion. For any reason to go spell damage is for this. Because you can play 2 of them. You can run 2 of them. And they're commons, which means you'll probably open them. And all you have to do is have some spell damage on the board. And for 6... you get 12 worth of stats. Or more if you're doing like hand buff. Like, holy crap. I love this card. It is very strong. I give it a 9 out of 10 for Insanity. Type of decks you'll see this in Mage. Guaranteed you'll probably see this in a Mage deck. Might not be like a spell damage mage, but it could be like a control mage that has some spell damage in it. And just they're going to play the spell damage when they can play this. Like, for sure it is going to be in a mage deck. And if I do not see it in a mage deck, I am going to be upset. Because it is freaking good. Steward of Scrolls. 5 cost, 4/4 elemental. Spell damage +1, battlecry, discover a spell. I honestly like this card too. Spell damage +1, which is a nice addition. It's a little understated for 5, but the spell damage makes up for it. Plus you get a spell with a battlecry. And it's an elemental. I think it's pretty darn balanced. And pretty good too. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It nicely provides a lot of value without looking like it really does. So 6 out of 10. Type of decks, probably Mage or Shaman will probably run this. Shamans do like their elementals, and so does Mage. So probably either one of those might take it. Type of deck that those would probably be Shamans would probably more be of a spell or elemental deck. Mages would probably be about the same thing. Tour Guide, 1 cost 1/1, Battlecry, your hero power costs 0. Or the next time you use your hero power, basically, it doesn't cost you anything. I'm not a fan of this one. I'm really not. Like, yeah, I get what you're going for. It's like, whoa, it's basically like you're getting a free hero power for 1. It's like, whoa, I'd rather play Waterboy. Well, no, not really. Waterboy isn't amazing either. But, like, any type of thing that's just like, oh yeah, your hero power is free. It's like, cool. Why should I care? Inspire isn't really a thing anymore, so why should I care? I mean, it's just kind of there. It's probably a lot better in Wild because of the Inspire that you can use and other hero power type stuff there. Probably sets up more deadly combos too in Wild, especially for Paladin, Death Knight. But in Standard, it really doesn't do much of anything. Period. It doesn't do much. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. Type decks or class will see this in? You probably won't. You probably will not see it. Vicars Reader. 2 cost 1/3 at the end of your turn. You draw until you have 3 cards. I see this as being very useful in an aggro deck, because then you can constantly keep drawing cards. Also could be useful in a control deck. Actually, no, never mind. Scratch that. Just the aggro deck. So, it being useful in an aggro deck would just be because you're playing a bunch of cards and then you're just drawing it. Even though it doesn't have much attack, it's at least keeping your hand filled with cards, which is very useful in an aggro deck especially. So kind of you want this probably in your starting hand. You're not going to probably play it right on turn 2. You're probably going to play it on like turn 4 or 5. Most likely, when you're starting to run out of cards. Well, that's probably like hyper aggro deck, and that's what I'm thinking of. Which then can keep your hand filled, which I would say is very nice. So I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. Type of decks, probably Demon Hunter, aggro, Demon Hunter deck. Any type of aggro deck, really, I'll be honest. Wandmaker, 2 cost 2/2, Battlecry. You add a 1 cost spell from your class to your hand. It's not bad. There's just not too much to say about it. Yeah, it's just that you get a spell. Stats are a little under, but the 1 cost spell makes up for it. 5 out of 10. It's fine. Most likely you'll just see this maybe in a mage deck somewhere. The Sphere of sappens. 1 cost 0/4 weapon for everybody, which is interesting. At the start of your turn, you look at the top card. You can put it on the bottom of your deck, and you lose 1 durability. So this is really just, hey, here's the card that you would draw. Do you want it? No. We'll put it at the bottom of your deck. And you will never see it again. I'm not a fan of this card. I'm really not. It takes away some of the RNG with the card draw, which is nice, but I feel like a lot of the time it's probably going to be like, here's a card. It's like, oh, okay. I don't want it now, but it might be useful in a few turns, so I don't really want to put it on the bottom of my deck. So I will draw it. It's like, good, so this thing was useless. Also, if you get this at the end of the game, it is also completely useless. To make it better, it should almost be like the start of game, but then it also might be way too strong, and you'd have to probably bring the durability down to like 2. So, I think it's not great, but it has uses, obviously. But also, if your opponent has weapon destroying, this sucks. It's very difficult to scale this one. I'm gonna put it at a 6 out of 10. Actually, it's fine. I just probably personally wouldn't use it. I just don't see it being like that useful. Type of decks, really, there isn't a deck that you would probably put it in because it doesn't really combo with anything at all. It's just kind of like, hey, you want this in your deck so you can 4 times put your top guard to the bottom of your deck? And you're like, sure, why not? Victus, 5 cost, 4/4. Battlecry, you summon 2 1/1 whelps. They each gain death rattles from your minions that die this game. That's a lot. That could be a lot of death rattles if you're going like heavy death rattle game, like with a hunter maybe. Like just like, oh yeah, we've played about 15 death rattles this game. This whelp, you might just want to keep the 1/1 around. I'll be honest with you here, John. I always love some of the combos that I could see in like Wild for this with like Stalag and Fugan, where you had Stalag and Fugan both die earlier. You got Thaddeus. Thaddeus dies. Then you play Victus, which each whelp gets the Stalag and Fugan death rattle, which since they've both died, each whelp that dies, each summons a Thaddeus. Well, each whelp that dies summons 2 Thaddiuses. So really, this guy would give you 4 Thaddiuses when the whelps die, which is absolutely insane. Like, you wouldn't even need anything else in the deck, really. You would just need Fugan, Stalag, and then just controlling until you can get the combo off of playing Victus out. In Standard, there's still some dang good death rattles you can get out. Like, Convincing Infiltrator, for example, is a really good death rattle that I like in Standard. Teacher's Pet could be okay. Get a random 3-cost beast. The one that really just jumps to my mind for Standard is really Convincing Infiltrator, because that one is really good. So, what do I rate this? 8 out of 10. I really like it. I think it's very strong. Type of decks, probably like a Resurrection Priest would be amazing for this. Like a Death Rattle Resurrection Priest type thing that's got Convincing Infiltrators. Maybe some other Death Rattles that heal you or something like that. I don't know, there's plenty of good Death Rattle stuff, I think, in Priest, if I remember correctly. Or Hunter would probably be the other one. Hunter, for some reason, gets a lot of Death Rattle stuff. I don't know why. But anyway, very good. I like it. Headmaster Kel'Thuzad. 5 cost, 4/6. Spell burst, if the spell destroys any minions, you summon those minions. Stats are already fine. And the spell burst is very useful, especially if it's like a flame strike, which kills like a few minions, and then you get a few minions as well. I really like it. I like the card. I'm gonna give it a, well, it's not like amazing like the last one, but like it's a 6 out of 10. A little above average. Type of decks you'd see this in, maybe a mage, because they have big, because mages have big spells. Who else has big AoE spells? Warlock, maybe? No, probably not Warlock. Never mind. Probably most likely just mage, to be honest. Warkeeper Polecat. Kelt. I'm not sure. 4 cost, 4/5. Battlecry. Reorder your deck from highest cost card to lowest cost card. See, I was trying to think, like, is that, like, that's useful, but not, like, super useful. Like, if you organize your deck with this guy in mind, there's, like, that it sets up, like, this combo for when you go highest to lowest. There's also the possibility of just not drawing him. And then you just, like, everything is just blown out the window and the plan is just gone, and it's just, this guy I think is too RNG based, because if you set it up for what the Battlecry does, you have to just hope to draw it. Otherwise, you just go from highest to lowest, which, if they deal with your high cost stuff and start to get some of your lower stuff, you're done for, because your low cost cards are not going to do anything at the end, because you're at the cheap stuff that don't do as much. Like, they're playing, like, boom, I played an 8 cost, he plays an 8 cost 8/8, and I'm like, well, I'm at my 3 cost card, so here's a bear. That does absolutely nothing to help out at this point. So he's a very difficult one to rank. So I'm actually gonna put it at a 5 out of 10, because there is probably some combos that could work out really well for this, but it's just too RNG based for that. So I think I'm actually gonna move it down from 5. I'm gonna put him at a 4 out of 10, because I don't think he's that useful then, for those reasons. Type of decks you'll see him in, I don't know where the heck you would see this thing. Honestly, I don't know if you will see him, because he's too RNG based if you're trying to go for some combo. Otherwise, it's just, you run out of steam quickly then otherwise. Keymaster Alabaster. 7 costs 6/8. Whenever your opponent draws a card, add a copy to your hand, and that costs 1. Okay, so you just want to play this, and you just want to keep them alive, because then you generate a crap ton of value, and your opponent can't literally do anything about it, because anything they do, you can do for cheaper. Woo! Control deck. This would for sure go into. Because, man, I freaking love this. This value is amazing. It's like, I see you have drawn Pyroblast. Well, now I have a Pyroblast, but my Pyroblast costs 1, while yours costs 10, because I am much better than you. So really, you just want to keep this around to generate a lot of value. I am going to rate it a 9 out of 10. Another one of those, because he's freaking amazing. Type of decks you'll see him in, you could see him in a lot of decks. Mage, probably. You'll maybe see him in Paladin, Priest, Paladin, so you can buff him, so he doesn't die quickly. Priest, so you can heal and buff him, so he doesn't die, and you just keep creating value. So probably with those Priest and Paladin, it's going to be obviously control decks. Mage, you actually might not see him too much, because it's most likely I see him being in decks that can heal and buff him to keep him around, so you can generate as much value as possible. that was the last neutral card, which I think was a great one to end off on. Next time I will see you for the newest expansion that has been announced now, which I will be posting about as quickly as I can. Called the Dark Mire of... I don't even actually remember. It was some festival theme or some carnival theme thing that they were doing. It seems pretty interesting, but I haven't looked into it too much. I'll be trying to work on that while I try to get Wind Waker going again. But I will see you all next time for... probably the card review is the thing you'll see right after this. So I will see you for that preview that will be coming out.